The next presenter I'm happy to introduce is Ave Paulus from Estonia and Norway. A very good example of cooperation between Norway and Estonia, this seminar and festival, I might say. Ave is expert on cultural landscapes and buildings and even human rights through a PhD. And work are the driving force behind this seminars and festival.
Coastal cultural landscapes. Coasts are my special love and sea as well. I'm going from a very concrete building that Tina was building to say that actually that is a problem that people build too much, and when you try to build it in an energy efficient way, when you actually calculate all the embodied carbon and transport, extraction of resources, and all the industries around that as a part of this calculation, then that is the impact every single item makes actually on the world and on the global level. And that's what ICOMOS, I'm the active member of ICOMOS Climate Action Working Group, says already more than decades that heritage is part of the solution. Heritage is part of the solution. That means that heritage, cultural heritage, fossil fuel-free economies, existing buildings, existing small-scale traditional nature use practices, local knowledge in these practices is something that you actually must be followed and taken into account, and they can be the part of the solution. Unfortunately, or fortunately, next slide please, yeah. Can you? Sorry, yeah. Fortunately, last year, in the beginning of December, it was first time that in United Nations Climate Change Conference, ministers of climate and officials of more than 30 countries, including European Union representatives and Commission representatives, signed the declaration as attachment to COP28 meetings that cultural heritage is part of the solution, and it is necessary both in tackling with impacts and living in the way that we reduce our climate footprint as much as possible. And secondly, they dealing with the consequences, with the loss of cultures and so on, that actually this cultural heritage and cultural identity part is something that you have to take into account. It hasn't been taken into account in European Green Deal. There is no mention of cultural heritage there. This just transition means massive building. Renovation babies face the fact, massive building. Extracting of resources, and that we can trick with the statistics. We cannot trick with the globe. So that is something that ICOMOS together with Europa Nostra and Climate Heritage Network put the actions together and made addition to Green Deal, that in which points, in every point of Green Deal, how the solution from the perspective of cultural heritage would be like, and which cultural heritage aspects there would be. I'm just not quoting it, I have been part of that work, so sorry that when I'm quoting text, then actually it is something that I have worked on. I just, in some previous, I'm just quoting something, This quoting is actually the outcome of the many people's work. So. But anyway, now I quote the Green Paper. Heritage conservation is the antithesis to the consumer society ethos of single-use disposability. It fights for the repair, use and reuse of existing buildings, landscapes, knowledge, and resources, an ethic of stewardship that can be scaled out as both a pattern and an example to champion and guide models of a circular economy. And just a fact, about half of total GHG emissions and more than 90% of biodiversity loss and water stress come from resource extraction and processing of materials, fuels, and food. And there is a European green paper solutions for every Green Deal outcome, so it is worth reading. I have been Estonian representative of European Union climate expert group, again, where it is put that where the cultural heritage is actually part of the solution for Green Deal. And of course, preservation of existing buildings, protected monuments, is an example of climate-friendly solution. And this enormous advantage is primarily based on the decades to centuries-long service life of historic and listed buildings, and is often not known or not taken into account in the construction sector or policymakers. That's why I actually quoted, pointed out that the Estonian Academy of Arts raises, and we in Estonia have license for those people. They must have the conservation license when they deal with the historical buildings, and that is enormous knowledge that must be actually expert knowledge that must be there when you deal with the historic buildings. And on the other way, all experts coming outside must listen to the local knowledge, because the very specific vernacular architectural knowledge isn't somewhere outside. It sits in that landscape, it sits in the position of the building, of that concrete specific locations, and so on. So this dynamics is very important. And that why cultural heritage has significant capacity. The building and construction techniques and materials were produced to last for a long time. Buildings display the skills and knowledge of previous generations well suited to deal with climatic changes. Built cultural heritage is a result of the best technical capacities that past generations were able to reach. Resilience is one of the main characteristics that define cultural heritage, as it has been able to survive manifold adversities. And cultural heritage, in the broadest sense, is a product as much as it is a process. Cultural heritage provides societies with a wealth of resources inherited from the past, curated in the present, and able to bestow its benefit upon future generations. And it is our obligation to pass it to future generation. And Randi Šolja has put out that there is a difference in what kills Sami buildings is economics. And it is actually as well the loss of the tradition or of that knowledge about how to build and how to maintain, and this observation of the site, because to be able to observe the site, you must live there. And this previous generation's knowledge is very, very, very locus specific. But here we are. That is at least Class D, every building, with less stringent measures to historical buildings. Now every country in Europe says what is historical buildings. In Ireland they have said traditional buildings, and that's cool, because traditional buildings is a much more wider scope than listed buildings. When you deal, and in Scandinavia, in Sweden, for example, you have the Planning Act that regulates that actually you can take, you can put that this building has historical meaning according to Planning Act very easily to most of the milieu valued areas, but not everywhere like that. In Estonia, we have that is compulsory quote of the some of the projects e-commerce Estonia is part of is Life Heritage Home project, where we deal that how we deal with historical buildings and how we define the historical buildings, because it is not only it is not only Planning Act or Heritage Act. In Estonia, we are actually protecting, for example, buildings in national parks as well, a state level, with a state level protection. And I am, as my main work is to say yes or no or how to build in the national parks and Lahemaa specifically. But Elo will tell more about that project later. No. But you can refer to.
My slide already was.
Then it's cool. So I will now with my special interest and my love, that is Lahemaa National Park and the coastlines of Lahemaa National Park. The dot is there, and it is protected since 1971, and the coastlines are 150 kilometers of coastlines there, and Lahemaa National Park is protected in the state level, and protection aims are cultural heritage, cultural landscapes, sustainable nature use, fishing traditions, agricultural use of landscapes, settlement structure, vernacular architecture, folk culture, and cultural traditions. So it is this holistic state level protection that must be implemented. And together with several parties, including local communities, we have cooperation council there with like advisory body of the Lahemaa National Park. And in 2015, Lahemaa National Park new rules, state-level rules, were made together with them as it comes to the cultural heritage and management plan of 2016 to 2025. And here you see the scale of this protection. And actually, when you take only one part of that, you are not able to protect it actually at all. When you don't take into account architectural traditions, when you don't take into account knowledge, but only, for example, protect the authentic body of the building, then something is lost there, definitely. And just statistics. This is 74 villages. There are more or less the coastal villages, all of them, because they are in the vicinity of 30 kilometers from the coast. And since 2022, since COVID, every small item where you see somewhere in the forest there is a pressure to build there, because it is in the vicinity of Tallinn, like 50 kilometers. And architecture and settlement structure is something that tells a lot about how the people lived in the coastline and how the people cope with the coastline. And we have in specific separate sites, especially on the 19th century architecture, this knowledge still there in the Juminta Peninsula and so on, where the forest is on the one side and the winds are from the other side, that you put the cold rooms outwards, and the position, the layout of traditional architecture is telling the same story, like here too. So you just have to read it. But we don't have only this very, very traditional layer, but the latest addition as it comes to when the summer cottages were built, or where the fine people from St. Petersburg started to come to Estonia, and then the 20s and the 60s and the 70s cottage architecture. So we have different layers there to protect and deal with. And some examples of that. And the crucial thing is architectural tradition, to my mind, as it comes to the buildings of vernacular architecture that you have here. Because when you take into the climate calculation this CLT whatever, together with that factory, or when you take the log and axe, there is not 10 times. There is like the world difference there. Second thing is with specifically coastal heritage protection that is connected with the lifestyles of the coastlines, which are changing. And that you have here too, that the buildings that are not in use anymore, that were used in the previous dominance in economy or previous types of the boats. I absolutely adore the comparison of Norwegian and Estonian boat sheds. During Viking Age, you had like 50 meters there, yeah, boat shed. Now you have smaller and smaller because Nordland boat is like a 30-meter boat shed. So your traditional boat sheds get smaller in a way. In Estonia, they were more like net sheds, not so much boat sheds. That meant that in the normal ways they are like 20-40 square meters, and now as they are on the coastlines, I have applications on the regular basis that the boat shed, traditional nowadays, normal boat shed should include bath tube and stuff for the good condition for fishermen. And so on, that basically say that no, it is not the boat shed that we are allowed to build on the coastline, but it is actually not the sea house, but it is something else, so no, sorry. Connected with the boat shed is something that in Estonia we lost during Soviet occupation period, because from 1944 onwards you couldn't go like that to Finnish Gulf, because 30 miles north there was Finland, and Finland was not Soviet Union. So this was just closed. Boats were cut into half, and this tradition actually, the fishing traditions that we try to protect is actually revival of these traditions, because there was a period when you didn't have the possibility to go to the sea from everywhere. You had special license for 4 hours, take your fish back, you know. And that's why, as it comes to the World Heritage in your side, this Nordland boats that you have here, we have a very great clinker boat of our own that is unique to our coastline. And that is part of that holistic approach that we try to protect together with the knowledge about boat building, about forest use, because every building starts with the log. Every boat starts with a log, and how and when and how you protect it, it is not something, you know, distant from the past. It is something very, very actual nowadays. And when you start to deal on this local-based thing and people come together, then they look at their villages. This is a kind of revival of the identity of that space. And now, for example, in Lahemaa, when we started with the conflicts in 2006 with the new regulations of Lahemaa National Park, then nowadays, exactly because looking at the specifics of your culture, of your coastal culture, what it holds, what knowledge it holds, what wisdom it holds. Now, actually, the cultural space is revived by the local communities, and the almost lost small language of Pohiranna is back, and that is something that gives hope. And that is something that actually we all should take into account while dealing with global perspectives, that is something like almost non-existent anymore, that only some fishermen can teach something very, very important for the future. Yeah. Dealing with buildings, you must actually deal with intangible aspects, cultural landscapes, intangible aspects, and most of them. Norway has ratified Faro Convention as well as Estonia and Sweden. Yeah, so no, Sweden hasn't. You have the Sami case there. Yeah, thank you.